Anthony Lee, welcome to the Humans of Agriculture podcast, and thanks for having me here at ACC. It's good to be back.
Pleasure.
Mate, we're sitting down for the More to Meat campaign, and I'm excited for this one because it's opening up a side of the ag world, I guess, that I see at different stages, but really only on the periphery. You're living and breathing and generationally have been part of the beef industry here in Queensland. But mate, it's August, so just how's the start of the year been for you, and how's 2025 shaping up?
Good. We've had a really challenging couple of years. We had a single customer relationship with Coles that ended, and we've moved in other areas, and we've been sort of working through that sort of arrangement now for a bit of time. And I quoted a Jeff Bezos line there that you can be, grinding away for 4 years and see no results. And then in your fifth year, things really start to happen. I feel like that's where we are. Things are really starting to come together. Customers are really happy. The team's doing a fantastic job and really finding our new business model, and trading conditions, you got to say, in Australian meat industry is really favourable. Good cattle market, still, able to make a buck out of selling the meat, albeit pretty uncertain times. When isn't it uncertain? But I could comfortably say life's pretty good.
That's good. And we sat down a couple of years ago, nearly be to the day, I reckon. It was late August. You guys were doing the camp draft.
Yeah.
That'd be coming up again?
Yeah, it is. It's coming up around the corner, and it's become bigger and bigger. So every year, I think that's four days now that we do it, and it's just, there's more and more we add to it every year, and people are really invested in it. It's great to bring all the teams together. One of the challenging things about our business is the tyranny of distance. So getting everyone together is a great opportunity to talk to everyone about where we're going, but also, they're all into, their tools of trade, which is their horses, and we now have motorbikes and whatnot in the gymkhanas. So it's a lot of fun and a great couple of days.
And one of the things which, as I said at the start, the meat processing industry, it's a huge part of not just Australian agriculture, but Australia more broadly. And the recent report which came out from our stake in Australia, it blew my mind that 1 in 22 manufacturing jobs in Australia is in the red meat sector. It's insane.
It's massive. And, we do, not only are we employing people, but we do such a basic fundamental service. And that is, we supply really nutrient-rich product to not only Australia, but the world. And we do it in a really safe and productive manner. I think people unfortunately feel like meatworks are something that you shouldn't showcase. I actually think completely the opposite. They are something that we absolutely need to showcase. People understand where meat comes from. They want to know, is it done safely and is it done well, and where's all the parts going to, and how, making sure there's no wastage. And I think we have such an amazing story to tell, and I'm really keen to share it. We do tours all the time through our factory. People are blown away by it, and that's where I really get energized, when you actually see people walking through, and they start off a bit nervous, and they, by the end of it, are super interested in all the things that go on. And obviously with employment, we have 71 nationalities as well that we're employing in the facility. So yeah, a big employer and supplying plenty of good, wholesome product.
You're setting us up for what's going to be a pretty interesting conversation. Just for our audience, just to understand kind of the scale, you touched on it there. So 71 different nationalities, but as a footprint, can you just describe a bit about the Australian Country Choice business, and then bring us back to the meatworks where we're sitting here?
So we're pretty unique in the industry in that we have the vertically integrated model. So we're breeding cattle. We have 4.5 million acres. We have a capacity of 300,000 head of cattle. Breeding operations, more Western Queensland, all in Queensland, and family owned, and very proud of all of that. We're breeding cattle, we're backgrounding them in more productive country with improved pastures, and then into feedlots. All we're doing is grain fed. We've got 3 feedlots with 60,000 head capacity, and then our food facility at Cannon Hill, where we're processing around 6,000 head a week, and we've got the capacity to do 1 million of those retail ready trays for the domestic retailers every week.
You use the word food facility there. quite intentionally. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that's, for me, really important for a range of reasons. I think you've got to have that mindset. Like, a food facility is something that people are obviously, you're producing something that people are consuming. So you want to have the mindset, or certainly, that the place should represent or look like that. It should smell in accordance with that. It should have, the ground should be kept in accordance with that. The factory should be in accordance with that, because in the end, we're producing something that is feeding millions and millions of people. And I think it's important to recognise what we do.
Last time we chatted, and I think it touches to that, the breadth of 4.5 million acres across Queensland. So how you get in front of your staff to talk and connect them, not just from the paddock or the cow right through to the end product that you guys are putting on the supermarket shelves. It's a huge challenge. But talk to me this morning. I got to stand just in the room and watch your Monday morning muster. Talk to me a little bit about that. And is that the whole company you bring in as part of that?
Yep. And sorry, just to finish on the food thing, because I just had a thought while you said, last week, for example, we produced 6,000 head of cattle. That equates to 49 million spaghetti bolognese meals, for example. When you actually relate it back to what that is, that's feeding every Australian twice in the week. I like to talk about it like that, because that brings people in and gets the engagement. They understand the connection between the big factory and actually the supermarket or the meals on the plate, and that was important. And look, yeah, the same thing for our Monday morning muster, and it's bringing people together to understand the mission and the vision and what we're all about. When I firstly started in this role, I was told, and probably in every business you're told, there's silos, I don't hear everything, I don't know what's going on. The Monday morning muster happens at 9 a.m. every Monday, and we bring everyone that can attend, and if we can't, we also tape it and then send that out, as well as I do a small little podcast afterwards and send that out. And the idea is we just talk about last week and this week, what's going on in the business, giving people the opportunity to get up and present in their respective areas. So we make sure that everyone's, up there and talking about what's going on. It just gives people a good feel for what's happening. It also allows us to do birthday celebrations, long service awards, any new starters we mention, and any shout outs. It's the last thing we finish on, is any shout outs, anything that's happened this week that's worth calling out. And I've got this silly little gimmicky music, the Be Right, so our culture values. And when I talk culture, as I said, people think it's a bit of a wank, but I genuinely believe it's the heart and soul of your business. And so I think of it as the most important thing that we do. And we've got our Be Right values, so belief, energy, responsibility, integrity, grit, humility, team. And the shout out is about one of those things. So who's done what? That's just a bit of a call out. It doesn't have to be a big deal. It's just someone did something, to help someone else, basically. And then I've got this silly little music thing that comes on with this guy singing Be Right. And it's just a good way to sort of start the week or end that muster, and people kick on into their week.
It was definitely something that I noticed, is that this morning's chat, and I don't know if it was just by chance or whatnot. There's a couple of things which I'm going to talk to you about here in a second, but the flow really finished on high energy. It was half an hour, and then people are off into their week, but it's across the whole business of, what was it? Customer, safety, operations, and there's something else.
And people.
And so you cover off those four things.
Four pillars of our business. So we've got ACC is Australian Country Choice. Internally, it's aim, culture, capability. So our aim is our vision and our mission and our where we're going. What's the plan? Basically, our culture is our Be Right values, and then our capability is just four pillars: safety, customer, people, and operational excellence. And we sort of move around in, I suppose what that is about is just simplifying a complicated thing. If everyone can think that way, if every business unit, both profit center and then the service functions, we talked about like a finance function, if a finance function thinks about itself as a business and what the service are that it's providing into ACC, if we can get that energy from everyone, take out the complication, make it nice and simple. Everyone knows the direction we're going and what are the key things that we need to do to deliver on it. I feel like that's how you're going to win.
As you're saying that, then the thing that I'm thinking about is connecting from farm through to factory, food processing facility. Like it really is. It's different types of, yes, it's all in agriculture. Yes, it's all in the beef industry. But here specifically, it's even within the business here, you've got separate businesses because it's a certain type of employee. There's certain things that you need to worry about. So how has that been beneficial for not just seeing how the team's empowered, but also how you guys communicate it to go, okay, well, staff attraction, talent attraction, we need to talk about our factory workers in this way, our head office staff that way, our farm staff this way, etc.
Well, I think it's all one team. And, whether you're on the tools, off the tools, whether you're regionally based or city based, you're all part of this one business that's trying to drive forward. And you've all got your group of, skill sets and different, expertise. And I think that's really important is that your business succeeds or fails on the back of the team and on the back of all of those skill sets. You can't just have a good operational team and not have all the service functions, safety, quality, HR. They're critical parts of the business. And I suppose there's jobs, for everyone. We meat sales, trading meat all over the world. There's critical need for great people in that space. Tech and automation, it all makes up the business. It's not just about operations. In fact, while that is the engine room of the business, if those other service functions aren't working appropriately, then, you never succeed. And then so it's about attracting great talent into all of that. It's about creating awareness to the general public about all these great jobs and opportunities that we have in our sector. And I think that's really where we don't do enough. I think there's so much more opportunity for people, city people, a bit like yourself and others who I think, the perfect candidates for people that actually understand how city life works, but then end up loving the bush life or the agricultural life and coming more into it. And I think, how do we attract great talent out of the cities particularly into our sector for all the wonderful, roles and tasks that we have, because we do that well and we win. And I think, unfortunately, we haven't been doing that well enough. I think our social license has really been impacted by that, where people aren't necessarily understanding, what goes on in a lot of these operations. As I said to you before, for me, opening up, properties are beautiful. You go out there, you see all the rolling hills and whatever. It's probably an easy sell. Feedlots, though, and meatworks are critically important for our operations. And I think more important that we open up our doors for people to see these operations and get them aware that just how important and how well they're done. Australia should be so proud of what we do. We run to the highest standards globally. We have the highest cost structures, because of that, but we do things very, very well. And we should be really celebrating that. We should be calling it out. We should be educating it. And then we should be attracting great talent into our businesses that allow us to do it better. Of course there's challenges. Of course there is. There's challenges in every business and every industry. But hey, don't step away from it. Lean into it. We're always going to need food. Let's bring the next generation coming up with different ideas and better ways to do things and all of that.
I saw a stat the other day, and it was that the agricultural workforce had lost 50,000 workers over the last 5 years. What is the last, let's say 10 years, because the last 5 has been quite influential around COVID, but the last 10 years, what's that looked like in terms of your workforce? And
yeah, super. It looked really challenging. And that's the reason why we have 71 nationalities in the factory, because, you have to go far and wide to get people. This is where I come back to education. And for me, what's so important in those school years where people are being, everyone's coming through them for a start. People are being either turned on or off things, very influential during those times. And, to be honest, we don't have a footprint in schools. Food and fiber's in the national curriculum. We need to get it taught, and we need to get people understanding just how great the industry is and how many opportunities there are for people to come into the industry. And so starting young, getting the right messages through those school years, and then people popping out of school going, you know what, I actually would like an opportunity in these food producing companies.
I think I want to touch on the National Food and Fibre Education Strategy in a second. I want to talk about one of the parts, though, which you mentioned this morning, and I was completely unaware of. When I think of the meat processing sector, I think of getting basically, how do you utilize as much of that animal as
Yep.
possible into food products?
You think of a rump and a strip loin, and a rib fillet. This is when I do the tours around the factory, I don't talk much about that because everyone's aware that we create meat and sausages and whatnot. What I like to talk about, all the stuff that these factories do for humanity that people are completely unaware of. We talked about this morning, we talked about the human heart valves. So we take the sac off the heart, it's called the pericardia. We put it into a nice slurry every day. It's sent to Edwards Life Sciences. It's then harvested. It's the membrane that goes into a human heart valve. Out of this factory alone, we have saved or extended the life of 9 million people through the valves that we're producing out of here. I've got a multiple of examples, but one really hits home is our procurement manager, who's a lovely lady and worked with us for forever, and she does a brilliant job. Her brother had some serious complications and ended up getting a human heart valve that was out of our facility. So just a really lovely tie back into what we do, and I've got a number of other examples of that. But the inside of the outside of the hide is leather, which goes into making all these boots, but a lot of like car parts and upholstery and whatnot. The inside, though, is less known, is actually collagen. So a lot of women's makeups, the drink that we drink, the powdered drinks, sausage skins, they're all made out of collagen. Blood, we use a lot of blood for medical, pharmaceutical, and nutraceutical purposes. A young animal's blood is the closest to a human's blood, and really, really important for a lot of R&D that goes on with medical science and whatnot. So we're selling the gallstones for close to $300,000 a kilo. And they're used in Asian markets for various things. We're selling like ligaments and whatnot, and people are using that to make different products. So there's so much more to a meat processing plant, a food facility, than just the food. It's all these other wonderful things that are going on, and that's really the challenge for us: is how do we keep value adding everything that comes out of these things? How do we keep improving the use of the animal, therefore making it more profitable, but also more sustainable for humanity? Render is, all that parts that you don't utilize. It's then ground up. It's squeezed. All the liquid that comes out is tallow. That is now powering airlines. It's powering cars. That is a biodiesel. And then the solids are then ground up and cooked and then pelletized, and that goes into fish feed, goes into chook feed, and the like.
Never ending, really. Like if you were to draw it as a web, it's massive.
Everywhere. And this is the thing: is you need market access to all parts of the world. Just that producing the meat, not one country really eats the whole part of the animal. So you need a lot of market access to be able to service those, or sell everything. And that's constantly what you're doing, is trying to find the next market and the next opportunity.
So you mentioned before at the start there, Edward Life Sciences. So how much work are you guys doing with different pharmaceutical companies and what's like happening in the background? But how do these ideas and collaborations come to life?
All different ways. You run into someone, you start talking to someone, about a thing, and then all of a sudden that we've got a lot of approaches from people interested in products. We go to food shows and whatnot where you find out there are certain things happening. You just got to be in and around the industry, in and around what's going on globally to find those sort of opportunities. We're looking at pet food stuff at the moment, which is a massively growing market. And like these people are paying more for pet food than what they're paying for themselves, like it's crazy what some people are paying for. So again, how do we use parts that would otherwise not be utilized and create them into some tasty treat for a pet?
I was at a feedlot relatively recently, but even it's so interesting where some of these traditional waste products they were turning or out at Morton Co. They were turning
Yep.
cow poo into fertilizer. But there's potentially a world where, and as you said before, the gallstones, $300,000 a kilo, was it? Where some of these byproducts or potentially what we view as waste now actually become
100%.
the more valuable part of the animals and potentially
100%, because it's all organic. Right.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing artificial in it. So absolutely there's value in all of it. It's just trying to, work out the cost effective manner to do certain things and get through the regulations. There's definitely some regulations you got to jump through to make sure that everything's safe for both the animal, and also for the environment and whatnot. But yeah, there's very much so like that whole circular economy type thing, and is very much what we can already do. And this is the point: is when you come through Morton Co, you come through the feedlots, you come through the processing operations, you are blown away. I promise. It happens every time I take people through. They just cannot believe the breadth of activity that's going on.
With I'll say pet foods as a prime example, but with this evolving needs, how are the needs of and the skill sets of your team evolving? Is it the same people that are now just diversifying their skill set, or is it new minds to see other things?
Both. So you still need, the real hardcore on the tools, operational people. And then you need, you need everyone, but they're definitely more techie, activities are going on, basic things like drone mustering, using the technology to become more, efficient at what we do. It's definitely evolving. There's a lot more automation people in a factory, less sort of mechanic type people, I suppose, or there's still a lot of them, but it's definitely evolving more to the tech side. But you still need the people to do the do. So there's a requirement for everything. I would say the ultimate person is the person that does understand the operational side that can then evolve into some of those different areas and whatnot, because they get the fundamentals of the business. But yeah, there's definitely a need to keep up. Like AI, where's that going to go? And we've talked about it multiple times at our meetings. Like, how do we get on this? In what capacity? Where do we start? Like, it's just, and the more people we've had AI people come in and present to us, and you're just like, wow, like there's so much in this, and what can we do? We've got analysts in our business that 6 or 7 years ago we didn't have an analytics department. We had the finance function. Now we've got a whole analytical team that take the financials, take the operational data, spin it all in and tell us trends and things that we should be, aware of, and fantastic insights. What can AI do to help? Because there's so much data and it's so hard to sort of get to the crux of and the root causes of things. So how does AI help with that? It's a bit over my level at the moment, but we'll just start with it, and work our way. And I think from there, it'll be sort of self-perpetuating. You'll learn and that'll help it and go from there. But yeah, look, again, there's a job for everyone. Sales is such a massive part of what we do, obviously selling, and how do you know you're selling the right product to the right place for the right amount and all that. So you need some really smart people, and again, people that can understand the operational side. So I would say there's a job for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to ask you that because is there a key person, or if you were to say the types of people that the meat processing industry needs is ...
Oh, it's all of it, but the reality is that a meat process, we've got 1,000 people in the factory, and that is staffing those things and reducing turnover and all of those things is really important. So just that in itself, I think where we're going with the Olympics coming up, that maintenance is going to be a really sort of like we're building billions of dollars of things in and around Brisbane and well, Queensland. That's going to draw a lot of people to it. How are we going to be able to make our way through that? We've got 40 or 50 electricians and fitters and turners and automation people, just making sure that we can operate these factories. And then I think it's the next gen of leaders. I look, for me, leadership and the right type of leaders to like take all of that and make it great. I mean, leaders are really the people that don't do anything and they do everything, I suppose. They're the people that the good ones look like the duck. They're just sitting back. It's all sort of happening and working. And how do we keep developing, great people, into those leadership roles? And I love this thing of bringing people up. As you probably know, like bringing people in is far less exciting for me than bringing people up and giving them the opportunity to grow themselves and for their families and their livelihoods. But also they're the people that how they fit into your business, their values and how, and giving them the training and skill sets they need to lead teams, I think is still the challenge, getting great leaders. So, but all of it, I mean, it's all really important.
Because your role, your business is so broad, but also these passion areas that you have. I know, so you talk about that, the piece around elevating and building up that capability from within so people can step into those new roles. You're also incredibly passionate about the school side. So how do you yourself like choose where your passions go, and how's that probably evolving as well as you?
I'm passionate about it because I feel like it's going to be better for my business, I suppose, too. Like great people, I don't say that because I feel like it's just a nice thing. It's like I always come back to like the Melbourne Storm or the All Blacks, and you go, how are they just churning out great talent? And because they're churning out great talent, they keep winning. Like this is what it takes to win. I mean, it's the X factor. So for me, it's about, people are everything. So that's where that passion comes from, that people in your business are everything, both internal promotion, educating kids during school, because we want great pathways in, but we also want people that understand the industry better so that we do improve our social license. I mean, I literally spend most of my time just focused around the whole people space.
Talk to me about your involvement. So 3 years ago, was it the Echo? You spoke at the Echo? Or was it 2 years ago?
Yeah, 3 at least.
3,
isn't it?
yeah. You're still young. No, I'm kidding. 3 years ago, you spoke at the Echo and you talked about the ag industry, and it was some conversations that had happened, but I guess that you'd been privy to, and you're like, far out. Okay, something needs to change very quickly. So you put yourself forward to say, hey, this is what is happening. This is where we've come from. This disconnect between what we're doing in the ag industry and everyday Australians is growing. But there's also a huge opportunity because we are part of the school curriculum. So that instigated a fire and placed you really at the forefront of leading this conversation, this next piece of work around curriculum and education through schools. Where's that at today?
Yeah, so spoke a bit about it. What I liked, I mean, generally when you speak about something, half the people hate you, half like, like it's always can be contentious. I just received nothing but positive feedback about it. So I was like, right, okay, well, that's unique. So there's a problem here and everyone's supportive of getting something happening. It was really important to me, though, that we brought the industry collective together, not just MLA or not just red meat. That we actually went, this is food and fibre, the second biggest industry in Australia, mining, and then all of us combined. But it was very hard to do that. Where do you go? There's not really one body. There's not really one R&D body. So we had to get all of them together and sort of say, is everyone keen to do this? There's 15 RDCs and the peak councils on top of that. And everyone was keen to do it, but it's taken a long time to actually go from that to let's do something. The first thing for me to do was, well, what's the plan? Like in any business, right? Or anything you do, like what's the plan? Why is it wrong? What's happening today, and what's the plan to correct it? So it was getting everyone to recognise, and the collective RDCs to go, we're going to commission a body of work to work on what the strategy is. What's the issue today? Why is it not failing? Why are we in the national curriculum yet we're struggling to get it taught? What's wrong? And what's the plan? What can we do about it? Because I generally believe we've got the money. I don't feel like that's the problem. The RDCs have got lots and lots of money collectively. When I last looked, it was 800 million. So to me, it's like if everyone's just then interested in doing something, we've got a plan together. We can actually see what needs to be done. What are the actions we need to take? Whether that is engagement with government, engagement with industry, and then let's get in behind the plan. We need to get the framework right. Like in any business, you need to have who's the boss of that, who's delivering that, what's the accountability structure, have we got the right people, all of those things, just the 101s of delivering something. And then once that's underway, then for me, it's not like a project. It's this never-ending thing, never-ending journey, because it's people and it's trying to develop people, and that we start actioning these items, reviewing it, and keep adding to it, and go from there. But you've got to get the 101 right. So I think that's where we're at. There's been a body of some work done. And it's fantastic. Like I've read it, was it perfect? No, and I'm sure plenty of people got feedback, but it's a wonderful start. And that actually we got something documented in writing. I think the really important piece of this though is the energy to take it forward, because it'll just fall like anything does without the right people actioning it, taking it forward. But if we can take that piece of work and actually start delivering on it, over time, then I think it's pretty exciting. We're fully on board. I think there was one part of it was that industry aren't engaged enough with schools and whatnot. We're in. We'll once we see the plan and how we can contribute, we'll absolutely get there. And I bet you there's a whole heap of businesses just like ours that would be happy to do that. But we just need someone owning that space.
And that's where the question mark still sits in terms of who can own that, and how do we bring the I guess different players, but also, as you said, that energy, because that's what's going to.
Yeah, I'd probably go. Well, you got the peak bodies that need to, they're the boss. I sort of say, they're the CEO type of thing. You got the R&D departments, which is the council of RDC. So, they've got to work together to say this is what we need to deliver on, and then there needs to be the HR function, which is PIFA, Primary Industries Education Foundation Australia. We need to just have a look at it and make sure it's set up appropriately with the appropriate skill sets and whatever. It then needs to deliver on it with the right funding and whatever, and then feed back to the Council of RDCs and the peak bodies to say these are the roadblocks, this is what we need help with. This was successful, this wasn't. Tweak the strategy, keep moving. That's the piece that I think is really important to happen. Otherwise, it'll just be one more report that's commissioned and then shelved.
Yeah. And I think that's the real risk here, isn't it?
Yep.
And it's going to be the sector that's going to be the one that hurts off the back of it.
Yep. I mean, we're in a slide because of this, in my view, and it's not, unfortunately, a problem that we're going to solve tomorrow. This is like, to me, you're trying to change the spiral to start spiraling up. And that will take some time. We're talking about a whole generation of kids that we've got to start training, and this won't not affect us. But if we don't start today, we're further and further behind. If we start today, we're now starting to move the needle in the right direction.
One thing you mentioned this morning in the muster, it was actually very good that I was standing on the side, because everything kind of comes back to it, was the announcement of a dedicated education role within your business. So talk to me about what that is and what does that look like?
So one part of supporting this process is I've wanting to do it for some time. I like the walkthroughs, and I like, taking people that are really nervous about coming through these things. I love it. Let's go. I want to talk to you about it, but I don't have the time to do it all the time. So what I want to do is create a resource in our business that would be co-funded through hopefully MLA and AMPC, that is, their role is just educating kids, educating the general public. I'd love to have, put it out to the local community, come and have a look, see what we do. I'd like to be at all of the the schools that we can be around the area. I'd like to be in their science classes, in their biology classes, providing products into those things. And one of the KPIs would be I want to tour every single week of this factory, where people from outside of this industry are being educated about what goes on in and around, this business or this facility. But that then would, I'd hope to roll that out to the feedlots and the properties, and then that's really an education on our sector. And I feel like it would make I really feel like it'd make a big difference. And if all of us did it, if a whole lot of processors had a similar view, like the ripple effect from that, someone comes and then they talk to 10 people about, oh man, you should have seen that. It was like, we learned this, that, and the other. And it's not as, it was really eye opening. And then that spurs on. And, I feel like that's what we can do. And so it's the start, it's the genesis of something. I'd like to do it for a couple of years and engage the success of it. And then from there, I'd like to make that bigger.
It's really like that octopus, isn't it? It's like there's the core here, but there's the little piece of, okay, tools is one part, and then that'll then allow you to get into this, as you said, the science classrooms, and it just starts to add on, and people start to have this, the one exposure. And I think of it coming back to it, it's kind of like sales, isn't it? Someone buys, but when they've had between 8 and 13 exposures to something. I think like careers is the same thing, where it's like you can't just expect to turn up and go, oh, you're looking for a job, think of agriculture. It's like, where are you? Here, there. How do you keep popping up and stay front of mind?
You and I had a chat before we started this, and it was, yourself was saying, like, if my mates knew what, in and around this industry, I know they'd be, it's about like creating that awareness at 8 or 10 touch points, whatever it is, where people are like, oh, right, so I can have a job doing that, or I can have a job doing this, or wow, I didn't realize that. And I love that sort of, would like to go in that direction, but they didn't know that otherwise. And unfortunately in the schools, you met Jacob today at the muster, they're told not to go in. Not only are we not telling them to go in or showing them about it, we're telling smart people that it's a dead-end career. Like, that's you couldn't do a worse thing. So all of that we've got to change. It's in our power. And if we're not going to do it, who's going to do it?
And a huge part of that is how we promote ourselves. I think coming back to jobs in meat processing, there's so many different elements to it.
Yep.
But as an industry as well, like I would say when you introduced Jacob and you said, was he school captain of the basketball team, and got into commerce law, and then decided after a period of time, you know what, actually I want to do ag economics or whatever it was.
Yep.
And like I would say as an industry, we think, oh, well, Jacob's like an anomaly, an incredibly bright, smart person. He's nothing like you or I. But in the same breath, it's like, no, there's hugely bright, smart people in all these different areas, and agriculture's.
And the first thing we brought Jacob into was the factory. So in an analytics role, because that gave him a mass touch point of the whole factory and all the things going on. He's able to analyze, labor or yields or, all the different things that are going on. So he's getting a great education pretty quickly on here's the operation, but hey, I'm good with numbers, and it's, and I can see trends, and I'm good with spreadsheets, and all of a sudden his skill set is really supporting into the processing plant. He doesn't have to be on the tools if he doesn't want to. There's jobs, off the tools, but he's getting a great education for what goes on. And then we're going to send him bush, and he's going to get some understanding of the back end of the supply chain and how it works. And then he can make his mind up about where he wants to go. But he'll have a great breadth of knowledge of the whole supply chain and what it's all about.
So is that part of like a graduate program? Do you guys do that?
Well, we do. This is just a bit of this is through a mate whose son and, that sort of thing. But, and a really smart, talented guy, like grab them, right? Or as
fact, he presented to the company this morning. I was like, bloody hell, off he goes. When you look at the future, I think we talked about kind of those key skills. What is it that's where do you see the biggest opportunities, and where are the parts that you as a business, but also as more broadly an Australian industry, that you really think we can influence and shape?
Well, I just think we've got to feed, what was it? It was like how many billion of people, 10 billion by 2050. Like we're at 6 billion people on this planet, or 7, whatever it is. We've got to feed 3 billion more people in the next 20 or 30 years than what we're doing. You know, that's the thing for me. I go, how exciting is this? Like what business, businesses are about supply and demand, and having a customer and being able to, and we're in a business where you can't do without it. You cannot do without what we do. So I look at it and go, well, our biggest challenge is how do we, keep up with the growth of all this, but at the same time do it smarter, cheaper, more efficiently, more sustainably, the whole thing always. So we need great people coming in, solving the big challenges in our business and our industry and the world. And, that's probably the macro thing that I see. I mean, there's always the Trump thing or the next war but I just look back over history. When hasn't there been some sort of things going on? So that is what it is. You'll face into that. But for me, it's like, great. So there's demand there today. There's massive growth demand, organic demand growing from global population. We're in the box seat to capitalize on that. We just need to do it. There'll always be a need for us. We just need to do it well, really well, and people will help you do it really well. So how do we get great people, continue to develop them, and continue to grow?
Absolutely. Well, Anthony, thank you so much for sitting down as always.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Now, they do say that feedback is a gift, and it's something that we absolutely love to have here. If you want to flick us a message, send us one on your favourite social media app. We'll get back to you. Otherwise, if you'd like to, please rate and review. A 5-star rating or a little bit of feedback always helps us continue to make the show better. And we have the conversations that matter. Enjoy your day. Keep smiling. We'll see you soon. Bye.